Produced by Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation, and Mr. Jesse Hernandez, as well as SoCal Wrestling TV. Find the app on Roku. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Power and Glory, the podcast. We are back. This is the place where you discover the power of truth in professional wrestling. And it is a better place today because with me are my co-hosts, two men who defend the truth of professional wrestling, my partners in justice, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Roma.
How are you doing, everybody? Glad you're all here.
And Mr. Mario Mancini. Welcome back. Everybody might be a little bit fatigued today because it was Thanksgiving yesterday. So we've eaten our stuffing and turkey. Well, I didn't eat the stuffing, but that's by the by. But before we begin, Paul, what do the viewers need to do, sir?
Well, listen, like we tell them all the time, and I know some of them, they may be getting older and, you know, they forget that they have to powerplex and hit that subscribe button. It's not that hard. I mean, actually, you won't even feel it.
Yeah.
It's so light and gentle.
Yeah. It's just light and gentle. And it's free. It's totally free. Totally free. Yeah. Yes. Hit the likes, share with your friends and family. What is not free is what's coming across your screen right now. Those are the original, the OG Power and Glory, the podcast t-shirts. If you're interested in one of those as a Christmas gift, use the email address in the description of this video, and we'll make sure we get that out to you before Christmas time. Well, gentlemen, we are back on the show, and what a tremendous week it has been. The world has changed dramatically, but one thing that has not changed in many years is the state of professional wrestling. Maybe 2025 will bring something new. This episode is titled "The Next Generation?" ? Arguably, you know, your generation, Paul and Mario. These guys were wrestlers. I mean, we can't say it enough. The golden era really put pro wrestling on the map. Things subsequently since then, from many people's perspective, has never been quite up to par with that level. But you two, the two of you, you run a wrestling school, Paradise Alley Wrestling, up there in Connecticut. So you're seeing a lot of these new generations, the superstars of tomorrow coming through. In your opinion, Mario, I'm going to start with you this week. In your opinion, what do you think has been missing, or is there anything missing since the 90s with the new breed of professional wrestlers?
Well, I only made it to 92. So, I can only refer back mostly to the 80s. Number one, I think, and I know it sounds like a knock on us, but it really isn't. It's just the times have changed. They think it's the way they're being trained. Number one. Because it's 2024 on the precipice of 2025, and you can't torture people anymore, and you can't beat them to half to death like we were beaten. And they did that left over from the 60s and 70s because they wanted to see if you never came back. And if you never came back, then you didn't deserve to be in the business. You weren't expected to be there because you didn't have what it took, a lot of interviews I've done over my life about wrestling is I would always say, you had to get the hell knocked out of you to work the work. In order for you to get to a work, you literally had to get the daylights knocked out of you. And I tell the students all the time, I go, and I give them a taste of it. When I was in wrestling school in the 83, Tony Altomar would say, okay, give me 5 Beals, 5 hip tosses, come in the hard way 5 times in 5 slams. You take them 20 bumps in a row. And I always tell the story how we opened up in 2014, and I fully intended to go that route again. And Roma just kind of slipped silently behind me and said, "You can't do that anymore." So, I make it known though that they're lucky the way they're being trained, because Roma and I were trained a lot differently than that.
Mhm.
And I think it starts there because you just went through so much physically, and really getting the daylights knocked out of you in wrestling school. It wasn't as bad as Stu Hart. I mean, nobody shook my hand and then broke my arm. But there's a good example of what you had to go through to get through Stu, right? Uh, you know, grotesque screaming they can hear upstairs, people being tortured. And if those people didn't come back, Stu was like, well, then you don't belong in this business.
Mhm.
In using him as an example, it seems like what I went through with Tony Altomare was light compared to what Stu put through people through. And when you go through something like that, it's kind of like the joke of the Iron Sheik that he's going to make you humble, right? It does make you humble, and it makes you appreciate where you are,
Mhm.
no matter what level you're at. It makes you appreciate where you are in if you're in the business, if you're lucky enough. And I think that's what the difference is today. And a lot of times these guys come in with, big stars in their eyes, and so did I. And I don't blame them, but you had to keep it's like Casey Kasem used to say after doing his top 40 every week. He used to say, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Hmm.
And a lot of guys don't know how to keep their feet on the ground.
Hmm. So Paul, so you took a turn to say, okay, we've got to lighten up on some of these guys. But is there a way to kind of be light, but at the same time keep them humble? I think Mario, you hit on a good point there. Humility and learning and going through something. And the same could be said with life, right? Like we could discuss this on over on Hey Roma. But Paul, is there a way to do the two at the same time?
Well, here's the thing. So big mistake. Um, what I had said to Mario, in a way, because we started getting what I consider the pansies, the wokes, the um, you know privileged, whereas you're explaining something to 15 people, and you have this other guy over here having a full blown out conversation with somebody else in the
Hmm.
corner, and you stop, and until one of your other wrestlers says, "Hey, listen, he's talking." Um, so that got out of hand,
Hmm.
and a lot of the guys got it, but a lot didn't get it. So come January 1, they're going to get they get to have December. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy the laid back Paul Roma. But come January 1, if I start to talk and you continue your conversation, you'll be thrown out of the school, and you could come back next time.
Hmm.
And hopefully you learn that you don't speak and have a conversation while I'm explaining things to people.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing was, and what we found out also was that there really isn't an age limit to wrestling anymore on who these companies will take. Excuse me. So if somebody came in that said, "Hey, I'm 40 years old, I want to be a professional wrestler," okay, we used to say, but you making it in professional wrestling, you're old. You're kind of old,
Hmm.
right? Well, now that's not the case. We've understood that they're taking any age,
Right.
which we think is great.
Yeah, it is great.
I mean, kudos to them. We think that's great. Whereas before, we'd say to somebody, you should think about it. Don't spend your money, save your money, because they're just not going to pick you,
Yeah.
unless you're some gargantuan freak, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
8 feet tall and 600 pounds, and you can leapfrog people and
Yeah.
throw yourself over the top rope. It's just there has to be something there
Yeah.
that's really really special.
Yeah.
So that's that threw us a curve too.
Yeah.
So now it's more we don't have we elect not to have any say in the matter as far as who should be a professional wrestler and who shouldn't.
Mhm.
We leave that up to the WWE and AEW.
Right. But let's just say, gentlemen, that you get somebody that walks in through the door and they say, I want to be a professional wrestler. Um, nothing about their physical stature, but maybe they are shorter than the average pro wrestler, or maybe they are taller, but they don't look like they've put in a lick of work at the gym ever in their life. They have no idea of the character they're going to be. They have no idea of no even any direction of where they're going to go. Now, what would you say to somebody like that? Would you be the harsh guys now? Would you understand that, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, go away, come back when you're serious about this business. Because at this point, you look like you're not serious, you're just a fan. Now, how would you handle somebody like that? Would you take them in, or would you literally tell them what I would just say right there?
Well, I mean, me, no, I would take them in, and
Mhm.
reason being is that um, probably about 9 years ago,
Mhm.
I had a student come in. I had an open house. People came in, and there was this one kid, uh, smaller than average size, and he wanted to wrestle. And his mother came in with him because he was young.
Mhm.
And I went over to his mother and I said, "Listen, I don't think this is a good fit for him." He said, "Well, he wants to do it." I said, "Yeah, I understand that, but why don't you save your money and just this isn't it. This
Yeah.
is not the place for him."
Yeah.
So he came out of the ring and I sat him down and said, "Listen, really think about this. I don't think this is for you, yada, yada, yada." He was adamant about this.
Mhm.
Well, I worked this kid hard.
Mhm.
And, he went from jumping 3 inches off the ground to jumping, 2 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Um, I trained him and fixed his mechanics so that he started doing things he didn't believe he can do.
Mhm.
And I ended up giving him the name Shooter
Okay.
because he shot on all the other wrestlers.
Mhm.
That's just how this kid was. And
Yeah.
he ended up getting booked and working in Japan.
Wow, that's really good. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that kid, and again, Mario and I always say this, you should learn something every day
Mhm.
because that's what life's about.
Yeah.
And I learned something,
Yeah.
and I had said it to Mario. Who are we to judge?
Yeah.
So unless there's something, obviously, there's something that really, limits you
Mhm.
or, you know, compromises another wrestler
Mhm.
or yourself for that matter, we're not going to stop you.
All right. All right.
Just how we see it.
Yeah. Mario, what say you about a situation like that?
I'm very upfront and honest about it, and the way I do it is I use myself as an example because I toyed with the gym. I was really into the wrestling, really into the wrestling. I toyed with the gym the first 4 years from 84 to 88, and then I met somebody, and I'll tell you how we met. I knew of him. I didn't know his name, and we never said hello. And I was near the entrance floor of the gym, ready to go onto the floor, and I was drinking a protein shake. And he said, "Did you already work out?" And I'm like, "No, I'm about to." And he looked and he goes, "Well, you're going to throw up." I go, "No, I'm not." He goes, "When you're drinking that protein shake, you will." I go, "No, I won't." He goes, "If you trained with me, you would." I said, "Oh, is that a fact?" He said, "Yeah." But we ended up training for the next 4 years together, and he was a world-class power lifter. And he got me into the 242-pound class, um, powerlifting, which at one meet I took second place and there were two people in my class, me and another guy. So I took second place. Sounded good at first, though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Um, I, and I should have took first, but I got too pumped up for my deadlift, and I didn't have the bar completely against my shins, and I screwed myself out of first place. Um, and Amir, I say to them, you don't want to be me. Okay, I was wrestling for 4 years before I got serious. You don't want to be me. You want to go in there and look good. And I tell them what Tony Altomar used to say to me. Tony Altomar would say, listen to me. You're going to be in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and you're going to be walking into the ring. And some guy there is going to be with his wife and two kids. And the most exciting thing they do, other than coming to this wrestling match, this is what he used to say to me, is eat hot dogs and drink chocolate milk on a Sunday. So this is a really big thing to them that there's wrestling in their town. But when you walk to that ring, that guy sitting next to his wife, when he sees you walk in there, he's got to say, God, I wish I were him. If you can accomplish that, you're going to be successful. Obviously, we're talking to a guy that I'm sure many have said, watching my brother Roman go into the ring. I've said it many times myself over the 40 years that we've been friends. Like, God, I wish I looked like that guy. You know what I mean? But that's what you have to look like. You know,
Back
and
then.
Yeah.
back then. But now, you know, there's guys coming in with nothing. You know, even in the documentaries and you know the that you see on TV with Dark Side of the Ring and all those documentaries, like and I said it in other podcasts too, where and I got a good laugh where you know Roma, if Roma had a tank top on and he got off the airplane and started walking through the airport, they go, "Holy Jesus, who's that guy?" If I had a tank top on and I got off the plane and started walking through the airport, this 8-year-old would go, "Is that Uncle Rob?" And go, "No, no, no, that's not Uncle Rob, just a guy that looks like him." You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna pick me out of the crowd. And that didn't start happening to me. I remember distinctly in 1990, Christmas shopping, and it was a warmer December day in the 50s, and I had a sweatshirt on underneath. I had a tank top, and I started getting hot in the mall, and I took it off. And the person I was with, like, people are staring at you. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I was really proud of that. And right now we have guys that I love them to death. I love all my kids there, every single one of them. And I look at them, Amir, and I go, hey, when they're leaving, they shake my hand and go, thanks, Mario. I'll see you either tomorrow night or I'll see you next week. And I go, hey, this is what I do, Amir. I go, hey, hey, look at me.
Mhm.
Yep. Get in the gym.
Mhm.
You know, you just we have guys in there that they're into the wrestling. The sad part of it is some of them become really good technicians of the ring,
Mhm.
and their bodies just hold them back, and that upsets me because you know everything said about Hulk Hogan. I was sitting in the dressing room. Now, one of my famous stories, and I've told this story before, Amir, because you know what, being in there from 84 to 92, um if you watch all of my podcasts, they're all the same stories. I only have so many stories, and I don't lie and make up stories.
Right.
They're all the same stories.
Right.
So it was after my match, and I was sitting in the dressing room, and I'm huffing and puffing and sweating, not like Roma, not huffing and puffing, and he doesn't sweat. So I'm sitting there, and a voice comes behind me because I'm leaning forward. So, and he goes, "You work too hard in the ring to look like that." And I looked over on my right shoulder, and be damned, it was Hulk Hogan. And that meant a lot to me. That meant a lot to me. But as the business was back then, when I did get in the best shape of my career and I was walking around the dressing room and Chief was joking, calling me, Mr. Roma, can I see you for a minute? I'm like, yeah, not quite, Chief. Nothing was done. Nothing changed. Nothing was said. Um, you
But,
know,
but
and
do,
by
They
1991, it
knew
was
how to
over.
take the heart out of people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call it what it is. They knew how to take the heart out of people.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they mess with whoever they wanted to mess with. Screwed over whoever they wanted to screw over. They didn't need you.
Mhm.
You needed them, obviously, because that's what it was all about.
Yeah.
And that actually stems. That's one of the things that I always tell Mario is that they're going to need us before we need them.
Mhm.
Don't ever forget that.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying that we are the WWE, not by any stretch of any imagination. However, they do need us because they don't have another place to go. And we don't rip people off.
Yeah.
When they go to other schools, they are getting robbed
Mhm.
by the owners,
Yeah.
the teachers. They're not getting taught what they should be getting taught. They're basically, it's cha-ching, come on in. Cha-ching, come on in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I tell all of our students multiple times, I had my day.
Mhm.
Mario had his day. What we want from you guys now is for you to have your day.
Yeah.
We want you to feel what we felt in front of 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, 70,000. That's what we want you to feel.
Mhm.
So we work really hard trying to get them right and make them, give them that chance.
Mhm.
So when we go home at night, we sleep just fine. It's not because we have, a sleep mattress, or, some special mattress or mattress firm or whatever the case may be. It's because we live and do the right thing
Yeah.
is what we do.
Yeah.
And he said it best. You'll hear the same stories come out of his mouth. And don't think for a moment that I don't get tired of hearing them
Mhm.
because, I do. And it's only because, he talks very highly of me.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's anybody, probably not even some of his own family members, blood family members, that think as highly of him as I do. Because
Mhm.
you think about this. Here you took a kid who came out of high school. All he wanted to do was wrestle. He did that, right? His idol in wrestling was Bruno Sammartino. Okay. He had a dad who was a uh, Purple Heart recipient, Silver Star, and he had two heroes. He had his real hero, which was his dad, okay, but then he had San Martino, which is the business he wanted to get into. Like,
Yeah.
who wants to get into the business of going to war? Nobody. So there was the wrestling. He
Yeah.
stayed that course, right? He endured as much as they beat him down. He still stayed the course until he said, okay, I've had enough now. Now he leaves wrestling. He goes and gets a degree to
Mhm.
be an attorney.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I know I can name, well, I probably can't name 100 people, but
Yeah.
I know there's 100 people that will cross my path every day, and I know they can't do it.
Right.
That's a unique thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I got further than he did in wrestling, but I'm out of wrestling now.
Mhm.
He has a career,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, he went to law school. He
Yeah.
has a degree. Just the brain capacity, like my head would go and just blow up.
Yeah. No,
So, there's the thing that people don't get, that people that tune in, watch, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, you got to understand that. He doesn't brag about it. I brag about it for him.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. So, again, coming from us to our students, we want the very best for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are students that we have, one in particular right now, that has made it
Mm-hmm.
to the WWE.
Yeah. Which is a good
Okay.
accomplishment. Yeah.
It's a great accomplishment. And we know there's more to come, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's AEW or WWE or wherever they go.
Yeah.
It's just Ring of Honor,
Yeah.
which is part of AEW. I mean, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
And we just sit back. Mara and I look at each other, and we'll have these, shit in, these grins on our face.
Yeah.
That this is great. We're so happy for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We see them, we hug them. That's great. That's great. They think they're happy. They have no idea how happy we are
Passing
for
it
them.
along, giving it back. Hey, gentlemen,
Yeah.
since you opened the school, was it 2014, 2015?
2014.
Yeah.
2014. Have you seen a change in the students? Because
Yes.
is there a resurgence of more? Because you're talking about like a conviction of character. So have you seen more of that in the recent years, like a stronger amount of talent? I hate to say talent, not talent, just guys that are more convinced of who they want to be and put that effort in. Has there been a change?
Go on, Mar.
I, Tuesday night, I put in the chat room, that class is going to strictly be from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. because everybody knows that I make an enormous amount of cheesecakes for the holiday, and I didn't want to be up until 3 o'clock in the morning. I was up until 2 anyway. That being said, Holiday came in, who's just about to sign with Ring of Honor, and he brought a really nice kid with him that has done a few things, and three students showed up,
Hmm.
three, and Holiday looked at me and went, three people. And I said, hey, listen, I already wrestled. I already did my thing. I'm an old man when it comes to professional wrestling. I'm an old man when it comes to performing in the ring. Other than that, I'm 58, 5'10" and a half, 252 and strong.
Yeah.
So whether they want to come in or not, it's their career, not mine. I already had mine.
Yeah.
So if they don't want to walk in one Saturday night, if they miss a spot or they blow up or whatever, you know what? Every class you miss, you lose,
Hmm.
and it adds up. As far as your question, um, it's innocent things that make me laugh. Like when somebody takes a bad bump, I laugh all the time. Sometimes I have to leave the building and go in the parking lot, and they go, "Ow." I go, "What?" They literally say "ow," and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, you're not playing badminton, man. This isn't horseshoes,
Right.
So and then there's guys that they get so pumped up that, and I'm not making excuses for them. They literally are unaware that they're being disrespectful.
Hmm.
They have no idea. They have no clue because they don't know anything about the wrestling business.
Right.
you know. And I tell you, probably the wrestling business is the most humbling business you can be in. I remember, and I've told this story in podcasts before. Eddie had um popped a joke on me once, beefcake,
Mhm.
and he was laughing and I wasn't. And at that time, Hogan was walking by, and he said, "Eddie, are you laughing at Eminem?" And I didn't say anything. And he looked at him and he said, "You know what? The people you see on the way up are the same people you see on the way down,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know?" And I never made it to the top, but I owned my own wrestling company. And the guys that respected me, like Tito Santana, like Tony Atlas, uh, Demolition, Danny Davis, you know what? I can pay them now.
Hmm.
if I want to. Now I can pay them. Now they can work for me. You know what I mean? So I guess things do come full circle, but it's they don't understand the respect of the business, and they feel bad when they finally get it. They're like, wow, I was a jerk. I was a jerk. And it's like, it's okay. You just have to learn. You just have to learn the wrestling business. I said it over and over again, and I'll keep saying it. The wrestling business was sit there, keep your mouth shut and your ears open. I am a disciple of Chief Jay Strongbow.
Mhm.
And people have to realize that I was extremely close to this human being, and you can't get close to him unless he trusts you,
Mhm.
especially Chief. If you gave him any what he would call gaga, if you lied to him, if you were done, you were through, he want nothing to do with you. So in order, we were so close that, obviously he judged my character, you know what I mean? And because he knew I did everything, and that's the key, Roma. I did everything he told me to do, including keep my mouth shut, talk when I'm spoken to, do the job and keep your mouth shut. Be happy in the position that you're in. Don't complain. Don't, you know what I mean? Even though in the end, I had a lot of arguments with them, but it's like they'll come in and give their opinion. Like Roman was talking about talking while he's talking. I've literally yelled at the top of my lungs at somebody to shut up. I just plainly came out and said, "Shut your mouth." And their face like drops because I'm Uncle Mario. I don't do that. I don't raise my voice like that. So, you know, or somebody comes in and had 6 classes, and if I get distracted or Roman gets distracted, he's in there going, "No, you don't do it like that. You do it like this." Guy's had like been there for 2 months and he's teaching.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 Right, Roma?
Oh yeah. 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 Look, the the other thing is this. When Mancini and I were at the wrestling school, we would fight, who's going to get in the ring. If there were 8 guys there, as soon as 2 guys got done, somebody's trying to get in the ring. It was
Mhm.
the fastest people who got in the ring got to work and
Yeah.
do things. Well, in our school, you're asking people, "Hey, come on, get in the ring. Hey, what are you doing over there? Get in the ring." I
Yeah.
mean, like, where's your sense of urgency, right?
Yeah.
And now, don't get me wrong, that's not all of them,
Right. Right.
but that's quite a few of them.
That's what I was going to ask you, Paul. I was going to say back then in the 80s and 90s, was there that sense of urgency when you guys were training? It was like, okay, we're here to be serious about this. Unless we're in a hospital or we're, death's door, or, the wife needs something, we're going to be at wrestling practice no matter what. So there was
Yes.
that urgency, that professionalism has to exist even before you get into the business, which
Well, right. And when, you start out, 10 years ago, when you have somebody like a Richard Holiday, it's easy,
Mhm.
right? I mean, he has respect. He has respect for himself.
Yeah.
He shuts up when you start talking. He doesn't make excuses as to
Mhm.
why he messed something up.
Right.
And that's what we get now. We get excuses. Hey, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is what, but really?
Right.
How about shut your mouth, do as I ask you to do? You'll do it right. And then
Hmm.
here we go. Let's move on.
Hmm.
But do you get more and more of that, not less and less?
Yeah.
And again, I put the blame on myself for that because, one of my students from 10 years ago comes to the school,
Mhm.
you know, pretty much regularly. And
Yeah.
he stands outside the ring and watches. And I'll say something. I'll look at him and he's shaking his head. And
Mhm.
I'll say, "Andy, tell them." And he goes, "Oh, you guys got it easy. Paul was never like this before. He is so easy with you guys right now."
Yeah.
And I said, "You know what, Andy? It's going to end. It has to end.
Yeah.
It's like the world, right?
Yeah.
Something's wrong with the world
Right.
when when men want to beat women at their own sport and then claim that they're female so they can get into their sport and win a medal or a trophy or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. Something needs to get straightened out.
Yeah.
And so in my school, our school, we need to straighten this out.
Yeah.
It has to get straightened out now.
Yeah.
It's either our way or there's the door.
Yeah.
And that worked for me back then.
Yeah.
And it's going to work for me today.
That's exactly, again, going back to the title of this episode, the next generation ? Because
I have another partner.
What's that?
All right. We have another partner. We have two other partners. Paul Perez, who was with the WWE from 88 to 93.
Yeah.
Worked with Dusty Rhodes, all the great ones. And we have another partner, Big Steve Tracy, who I always call the silent partner. Let me tell you what he did. He came to the wrestling school and he watched me train these guys for 15 minutes. And he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? I'm teaching." He goes, "No, you're not." And everybody stopped to watch him talk. And he said, "You tortured me. You tortured me. Why aren't you torturing them like you tortured me back in 88? I went, "It's not that way anymore." He goes, "Let me take the class. I'll show him what it's like." I said, "You can't do that. You can't do that." And he, you know what? He won't come back. He can't stomach watching these guys get trained. I tortured him badly, because I was angry because he came in and he had a bad head injury when he was younger. And he didn't tell me about it until after a couple classes. I said, "Get out, get out." He came back a month later and he said, "No, I want to be a wrestler." And I said to myself, "Okay, by the way, when I say I tortured him, I never laid a finger on him. Not a finger.
Just ran him into the ground."
Yeah, I just ran him into the ground.
Just mental.
Right.
And after a while, I couldn't do it anymore. And I said, "Okay, I'll teach you." And we've been inseparable ever since. But he can't even come to the wrestling school and watch because he wants to walk in there and watch them get tortured. He was standing there and they were warming up. And one move where they warm up is they're on the outside of the apron and they lean their waist on the top rope and do a slow roll into the ring and come up. And he goes, why aren't they coming in the hard way? Why are they rolling in there like a 3-year-old? If they're going to come in that way, how come they're not coming in the hard way?
Yeah.
He wants them to take that big bump on the way in, man. You know what I mean? Because you know what? I made him come in the hard way 15 times in a row until he couldn't get up anymore.
But
you know what I mean?
But you know what, guys? You see it in the eyes. When someone's dead serious about something, it's in their eyes. And I think, we've had a huge gap. Like I've said it numerous times, and if I offend somebody, oh well.
Oh well.
Oh well. There's so many wrestlers that have come and gone in the past 20 years that I guarantee in 30 years no one's going to remember at all. They're going to have to go and look back at the tapes. Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that guy. Because like you said, there's a lot of that lack of commitment, entitlement that's run rampant throughout generations, and it's the believability factor. I can tell. I mean, you just audience, just look at Paul. Just look at Paul. Imagine him as a young man in his 20s getting into the business. He wasn't missing practice. He wasn't complaining. He wasn't trying to argue his way through a mistake he made because he knew it was do or die. If I don't do this right, I'm not getting that deal, and I'm not playing. Right.
And that's the respect I had, in the ring when I saw Mario in there and Gino Carabello. These guys wouldn't quit nonstop, and I'm like, okay, what I mean? I'm like, wow, okay. And again, I've said this, played every sport but hockey. And wrestling was by far the hardest as far as on the body because there's nothing natural about it.
Huh. Nothing. Mm-mm.
So, I came out of it and I was like, wow, I hurt like every part of my body
Yeah.
hurts.
Yep.
It's just one of those things. And injuries, they don't want to hear about injuries.
Mm-mm.
Mask them over, tape up, do something,
Yeah.
wrap them in an ace bandage, but you got to get back in that ring.
Yep.
That's just how it is. And when we were in the WWF,
Excuse
if
me.
you didn't work, you didn't get paid.
Right.
Regardless of me having a contract signed, didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
My contract was, when I worked, I got paid.
Yeah.
So I worked injured a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of intestinal fortitude back then that existed. And like you said, Paul, come January 1st, 2025, you're going back to that model.
Going
Um,
back to the model and what I call, I always joke with the guys. I'm like, oh, you guys are a bunch of sissies. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore.
no, no.
And here's one of the things that I do. The guys laugh because I don't call anybody by their real name, their
Okay.
first name. Okay. And what I told them at one of our shows was this, and I told the crowd this. The people come in to our school, these students, and I call them all different names. And some of them, they're not nice names.
Mhm.
But when you earn the reason why I should remember your name, then you made it
Yeah.
as far as getting my respect now.
Yeah.
When I start calling you Jeremy instead of some other name, which we won't throw on the air,
Right.
you made it.
Yeah.
And I saw the sit back and oh, that's why he does it.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why I do it. Hey, what's your name? Joe. Hey, what's your name again? Joe. Hey, your name. What is it again? Joe. I'm joking, right? I don't remember your name. You know why? Because you don't give me a reason to remember your name.
Right. Yep.
Show me something.
Yeah.
Give me a reason why I should remember your name. And
Yep.
then I'm going to remember it because I respect you now.
Yep.
But as of right now, I don't.
Right. Right. Much like the wrestlers on the big circuits too. The same could be said there. Of course, we know they need to fill spots, and sometimes, again, I don't know these people personally. All I can do is get an idea by what I see on camera. And sometimes what I've seen on camera in the past 20 years, like I said, I mean, for me, most of it forgettable. I mean, I can remember guys like Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Kenny Omega, some of the bigger guys like that, but it only because they have that conviction of character. They're not there to play. They're serious about the business, and I think most important, gentlemen, they have to give a crap about the business. If they don't, get out. Because this is not a weekend warrior parade. This is not, you don't just go and have fun doing this. This is a serious business. There's a lot of money to be made, a lot of people to be entertained. Speaking of that, Paul, Mario, I want to, because it is the Thanksgiving time, and in 1990, it was the Thanksgiving tradition. It was the Hartford Civic Center. It was Survivor Series 1990. In my opinion, one of the best Survivor Series ever produced. We had the grand finale match of survival. Paul, you wrestled twice that night with Hercules as Power and Glory. Your entire team survived. It was you, Million Dollar Man, Ted DiBiase, who was else?
Rick Martel.
Rick Martel, and the Warlord. Um, you wrestled twice that night. Of course, there was Hector Guerrero was in the egg. He was the gobbledygooker. We've had him on here. The Undertaker debuted that night. Sheer perfection from top to bottom. You tell us a little bit about, because I rewatched the main event, the grand finale last night. You do your the Powerplex. By the way, Powerplex, that subscribe button. Hercules Powerplex. You come down, boom. Hogan kicks out, clotheslines you, pins you, you're out. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you feel, first of all, when that was proposed to you, that that's how you had to be eliminated?
It didn't bother me. Vince didn't want us to do it.
Mhm.
Vince was worried that I was going to hurt Hogan when I came off the top rope. And Hogan was adamant
Hmm.
with Vince. No, 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 no. And I said, Vince, I'm not going to hurt him. Are you kidding me? I do this to everybody.
Yeah.
And so lo and behold, Vince says, okay. So we go do our thing. But again, like anything that Hogan does, he had to always kick out of everybody's finish.
Hmm.
That's his MO.
Yeah.
That's what he's known for, right?
Yeah.
He's done it to probably everybody you can name.
Yeah.
They used to finish. So, yeah, that's pretty much what happened that night. No big deal. I was happy to be there, happy to get that far.
Yeah.
Get the recognition that we had. It was a big feather in our cap, all of us.
It was huge.
Yeah. And this is something that you and I and Mario spoke about off screen,
Mm-hmm.
which was about respect,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, respect in wrestling plays a big part. I'm only going to win because you're letting me win. You're only going to win because I'm letting you win.
Yeah.
It's a mutual give and take.
Yeah.
And there was quite a few guys in the business that I had respect for, and that I would trust.
Mm-hmm.
And trust and respect, in my brain is really big,
Mm-hmm.
really, really big.
Yeah.
Because you can you if you have respect for him, then you trust him, right? You have trust for him too, which
Mm-hmm.
is a nice thing. So they went together, and the list is long,
Yeah.
pretty long and distinguished. And to name a few, obviously Mr. Fuji,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Mario,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go, guys that everybody out there would know. They may know Big Steve, they may know Paul Perez, but then you have Harley Race,
Mm-hmm.
and you have Les Thornton, and in no particular order, of course. You have
Mm-hmm.
SD Jones,
Mm-hmm.
Ron Simmons, Bad News Brown.
Mm.
Just
But
just there's I mean, the list is like Kurt Hennig.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I
Mr.
mean? You got Barbarian, you got Haku.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys, when you shook their hand and you gave them, you give them that little hug, it was real,
Yeah.
right? You had Don Morocco, Bob Orton. These guys they were just good guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I have respect for these guys. I still have respect for them.
Yeah.
And just recently, I was watching Dark Side of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry Martel.
Yeah.
Love Sherry Martel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I watched the Sandman. I couldn't do what the Sandman does.
Mm-mm.
I don't know many people that can do what the Sandman did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's a phenom, really. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's what that is. For
Yeah.
you to do what you did,
Quite.
look, if I can go out there and do it, then it's no big deal. Kind of how I look at it, right? I mean, that's just me.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
But what he did,
Yeah.
couldn't do what he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, the list is pretty long.
Yeah.
It really is long. And I'd like to get that list and we'll come back on the show one of these nights, and I'm going to throw that list out there.
Yeah.
It's a long list, and
Yeah.
these are guys that you could travel with, you could room with them. They weren't looking to do something, talk bad about you behind your back, and ruin your career. But then there were plenty of guys that did.
Mm-hmm.
That would say, oh, yeah, hey, yeah, Mario's got a bad attitude. Hey, that Roma's got a bad attitude. Well, again, there's plenty that won't say that. There's plenty of fans that won't say that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a few people that will. Why?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't friendly with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I didn't respect them.
Yeah.
I kept my distance. Sure, I shook their hand because that was what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have any respect for them.
Mm-hmm.
And why should I? You need to earn that respect.
And I think that's important, as you mentioned that it's important to state that to anybody looking to get into the pro wrestling business or anybody who puts themselves out there in the public forum. You're always going to have people trying to take you down, or what they call trolls, or people that are going to try and ride on your coattails, make stuff up about you, and you've just got to learn to just let that water wash off your back. If you find yourself the one who's attacking, you need to check yourself because there's something wrong in you. Because
Right,
that's
but
the first person. But anyway, sorry, Paul.
here's the problem with that. See, the
Hmm.
problem with that is you had a lot of immature grown men,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, somebody like me comes into the business or Mario comes into the business. Well, maybe Altimore smartened him up until I got with, Fuji training me. Yeah, he smartened me up. But
Hmm.
by that time, it's kind of late.
Hmm.
It's a little bit late right now. And these you wouldn't think that these grown men would act like such children.
Yeah.
And wait, it's not just the wrestlers.
Hmm.
It's the office. It's what we call the office. It's the WWF at the time, WWF office,
Right.
the personnel, the vice president, the president, Vince McMahon. You get one of these guys that, Vince obviously knows a lot longer than you, and they're making him more money than you're making because you're just starting out. They're believing the lies.
Yeah.
So you get knocked down. You're climbing up the ladder. Now all of a sudden you get knocked down the ladder. You're like, wow, what just happened? I
Yeah.
thought I was doing so good.
Hmm.
Well, because this big baby over here ran to them, and then instead of them, right? You figure you're running well, at the time, a multi-million-dollar business.
Hmm.
You think they check into it? Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's check into this guy and see if he's really doing what the or he really acts like or his attitude's like this or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Take it on this guy's word or that person's word. And let's say I'm really good friends with Pat,
Hmm.
right? And Mario's climbing up the chain. And I go, hey, Pat, he's got a bad attitude. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I don't know why you're giving him a push. I mean, he said this, he said that. And they bought it. They
Right.
bought it all.
Yeah.
So now Mario gets knocked down. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's been doing everything the same way. Well, why isn't he booked in all these towns anymore? Why is he getting beat all of a sudden now?
Yeah.
What's happening? Well, he doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
In his eyes, he didn't do anything wrong. He just thinks, okay, well, I don't know, maybe they're going to do something.
Hmm.
Maybe, you can't figure it out. That's what happens, or what used to happen. I don't know if it still does, but
Hmm.
it definitely happened up to probably about 8 years ago. It still happened
Hmm.
in there. I heard it,
Okay.
and that's what these guys are. They're worried about it's a dog eat dog business, and they're worried about their position.
Hmm.
So when they see some guy come in, he may be good looking, may have a good body, maybe both, maybe he can wrestle. Now he has everything.
Hmm.
They're worried about themselves. If
Hmm.
he's a baby face and you're a baby face, oh boy, I better worry about my job. Or
Hmm.
a heel and you're a heel, oh boy, oh boy. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And one time when I came out of the ring, I was working with Beefcake. When I came out of the ring, Hogan grabbed Beefcake and said, "You better get to the gym. He made you look bad."
Hmm.
Well, now I got heat with Beefcake because why? Because I go to the gym and train,
Yeah.
because I watch my diet. So now this guy's pissed at me. I didn't do anything to him.
Paul.
What you did it to you,
Yeah. Paul, do you reckon that's why the Ultimate Warrior got a lot of flack from a lot of
without
people?
a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. When
Always.
Warrior came in, he came in as the Dingo Warrior.
Hmm.
And the guys were looking at him like he was raw meat and
Hmm.
they were wolves.
Yeah.
I mean, and I listen, I was hearing the chatter.
Hmm.
So, he made it, obviously. Um, and again, I was what I consider an acquaintance of Warriors. We got along.
Hmm.
Um, could he wrestle? No.
Right.
He was a phenom. He shook the rope,
Hmm.
painted his face. He couldn't wrestle a lick.
Right.
I mean, legit, he
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
But Vince poured money into him and made it work.
Yeah.
And then you get him right up there against Hogan, beat Hogan or beat some bad guy or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
and you're over.
Yeah.
And that's what he was able to do and make money. So yeah, did the guys get pissed? Of course they got pissed at him.
Yeah. I just always thought it was kind of unfair because the way they downed him so many times. For me as a kid, he was, like I said, guys like him, like you, Power and Glory, Demolition, Legion of Doom. That was it. I mean, I didn't see, but they love to go back now and say, oh, the fans didn't really like him. It doesn't look like that when I'm watching the pay-per-view and the fans are cheering.
Right.
It doesn't appear that way. So, which again could be said, I mean, obviously guys need to know what they're doing in the ring, but at the end of the day, there are the guys that you can, hook something onto because they are larger than life. They believe in their character and they deliver it well, and that draws money. Period.
Okay. So let's compare something. All right.
Mhm.
I got along with Lex Luger. I'm
Okay.
not saying we were friends, but I see him
Mhm.
like at autograph shows. I go up to him, I show respect to him.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, nice guy, always been nice to me.
Yeah.
When Vince brought him in, I mean, what? Vince got him a bus, Mario, put
Yeah.
USA or something on the side of it, or whatever the case may be, poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into him.
Yeah.
Lex Luger didn't have that personality.
Right.
He couldn't get it to work. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? He
Yeah.
couldn't get it to work for Lex, no matter how much money he put into him. So he canned everything.
Yep.
But it worked for Warrior, worked for Hogan, it worked for a lot of different guys. It's just how it was. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He just didn't have that.
Hmm.
Had a great body.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know what it was. The charisma. I don't know.
Yeah. Mario,
Just didn't work.
Mario, I got to ask, were you at Survivor Series 90?
You ribbing me?
No, no, I'm asking because I know sometimes they bring in talent that are backstage and things like that, even if they're not on the card, even if they're not doing.
I'm sorry, I forgot. I was in Hartford for Survivor Series 1990 at the carving station at catering. They were short one carver. So I was carving the ham there. So no, I wasn't there.
Oh well,
No, Amir, I wasn't. How many pay-per-views I've had? That would be zero. I like to say I've had my Forrest Gump moments,
Hmm.
which was holding Roddy Piper back at the war to settle the score
Okay.
and helping the Iron Sheik back to the dressing room 7 months before I turned pro at the age of 17, the night Hogan took the belt from him.
At Madison Square Garden.
At Madison Square Garden that January of 84, 7 months before I broke in, Tony Altomar simply said, "You want to take a ride to the garden?" I went, "Okay." And he
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, come out with me. We're going to help break something up." I'm like, "Okay." And there was
And that was it. Yeah.
those were my two Forrest Gump moments. The war to settle the score and the night Hogan took it from the Sheik. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, you know what? That's a landmark. That's a historic moment right there, Mario. So
My historic Forrest Gump moments.
it's a
Yeah,
very big
those
one.
were.
A very big one, in fact. So two massive ones right there at the peak of it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I get, gentlemen, what I deduce from this is it all boils down to the conviction of who you are to want to make it. You got to be serious about your craft. You've got to put in the effort, and sometimes you got to be, like I said, I've heard it even from our good friend Jesse Hernandez. I got to give him a plug. Anybody looking to be a pro wrestler in Southern California, head on over to the School of Hard Knocks, Mr. Jesse Hernandez. Um,
Super nice guy.
yeah,
Super
very,
nice guy.
very, very nice guy. Very traditional in his sense of training, just like you guys. He's looking to produce top talent who actually want it, who believe in it, and I want to go out there and proudly say, I helped that guy get into the business. And I think that's what any teacher would want to say about any student. Um, Paul, Mario, it's going to be interesting to see how things turn come January 1st, 2025. I
Oh,
guess,
baby,
I,
strap yourself in.
yeah.
Listen, you learn more. I was told this a long time ago. I truly believe this. I preach it. You learn more with your mouth shut and your ears open.
Hmm.
Strongbow.
Hmm.
Well, that was my
Strongbow.
dad, but Strongbow, the same thing. He was
Yeah.
Italian.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, you learn.
Yeah.
It's shut up while I'm talking,
Yeah.
not keep quiet, please. Okay, I didn't get offended when I got a backhand across the head or a forehand across the head, or I get slapped or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
or threatened. I didn't call the police on my father,
No.
okay, or cry like a little girl.
Right.
Daddy used harsh language with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, no, we respected, what they did, what they said,
Hmm.
and we turned out just fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Amir,
And if you
sometimes
right,
sometimes seeing something is different than hearing it.
Hmm.
Every now and then, I'll post a picture of Roma and I on Tuesday Night Titans, where and nobody's ever caught on. That's where you can tell that they're really not there.
Hmm.
I post it because I'm 18 and Roma's 25.
Hmm.
For just one of them to go, holy mackerel, these guys have known each other for a long time. Jesus, look at that.
Hmm.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, to really see it and to see them now, I mean, these guys have, more than half their life.
Hmm.
And to really take a look at that, even though, I went to wrestling school in 83, went through the WWF, and then I teetered on some independent stuff and, then got involved with the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and then ended up opening up Paradise Alley. One can argue that, hey, you haven't spent every single year of those 40 years in the, no, but you know what? Up until Chief stopped working for the office, and even after he worked for the office, I was on the phone with him 2, 3 times a month,
Hmm.
and he would keep me updated.
Hmm.
And we would be on the phone for an hour and a half, 2 hours getting updated
Hmm.
and telling me how much the business has changed, especially during the Attitude Era and everything. And he didn't agree what was going on and everything. And so I kind of was in it. It's just that today's they come in like, okay, I'm going to dominate this,
Hmm.
whereas we came in and said, I hope this goes well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's okay to be confident, but you have to respect it. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? You have to respect it at the same time with that confidence. So it's kind of, there are a lot of guys. We're listen. I have an old school kid, and ironically, he was kicked out of Paradise Alley at one point. I mean, he couldn't work.
Hmm.
But he pulled a Roma and Mancini. He pulled an old WWF. And Roma said, listen, I got a guy coming as a backup because the night before this big match we had at the JCC, he messed up his ankle, something fierce. Roma got a hold of me first, said, hey, look, he got hurt. I'm like, he just texted me right now, said he's bowing out. Okay, I got so and so coming to back him up. 20 minutes later, he's like, you know what? I'm good.
Hmm.
I'm good. And he came into the dressing room and he was limping a little bit. I went, just like the agents used to do with us. I go, how you feeling? He goes, fine. I go, your ankle feels good. My ankle's just fine. Don't lie to me. I'm not lying to you. He's lying to me. My
Hmm.
ankle's just fine. He was there Tuesday night. He wasn't ready to go in the ring. And I said, you going in the ring tonight on like your ankle? He's like, yeah. But you know what? In the same fashion, an hour later, he's changing his shoes and putting his pads on. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're resting your ankle. He's like, no, I'm good. And those are the guys, like there's one guy that Roma will never book again. He like, I don't know, tweaked something in his shoulder, his elbow. It was like a couple days before the show, and Rome was like, "Were you gonna make it right?" He's like, no, it's a little sore. And Roma calls me up, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, Roma's going in there with a broken neck, pulled hamstrings, bad knees. He's going in there. He's pulling off anything he could. He's going on a pay-per-view. He could even walk out to the ring. He still went out there and did a pay-per-view. And these guys are like, oh, ah,
Yeah.
I don't think I can. Oh, I don't think I can make it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's another difference.
Yeah.
That's
There's
another
a
difference.
huge difference. And also going back to that Tuesday Night Titans, the fact that you were 18 and 25 respectively, Mario and Paul. I mean, you put an 18 and 25-year-old on a talk show today, you'll see the immaturity all over it. You guys look like adults, grown men already at that time.
Amir, that's another story. That's another story in itself. And I'm thankful I went through wrestling school my senior year of high school. But I had the mind enough when and listen, this is the truth. I had to hold it in. I just got done watching this stuff on TV. I was a fan.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm sitting in Poughkeepsie on July 31st to 84, and I go, there's Hulk Hogan. There's
Yeah.
Andre the Giant. There's Don Morocco. I hope he doesn't recognize me.
Mhm.
Oh, because I used to get on him as a mark.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a Paul Orndorff, Alpha and Seek of the Wild Samoans, the Moondogs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I got to grow up fast here.
Yeah.
I got to grow up fast. I got to grow up fast,
Yeah. Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
I just graduated high school 6 weeks before that.
Mm-hmm.
I just got my high school diploma 6 weeks later. I'm looking across the ring at Greg Valentine, and I'm like, so what's a kid do that doesn't have a lot of brain waves yet? You look around and you emulate.
Mm-hmm.
You look around and you emulate. You start acting like everybody else is acting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You start carrying yourself the way everybody else is carrying themselves.
Yeah.
So these Roma and I look at each other all the time and go, "You wouldn't have lasted an hour in the dressing room back in 1986. He would have never lasted an hour." And you know what? Going back to everything that we said, some of the funniest moments in my life have been with Roma. Some of the moments in my life, I've had my hands on my knees, losing my breath, laughing. I can look you in the face right now and tell you, not even one chuckle when we were in that ring training. There was no joking around. There was no laughing.
Mm-mm.
None of that.
Right.
In fact, when I'm teaching on a Monday night and it's 10 after 10, and the class decides that they want to end the class by like being the View talk show and just
Mm.
sitting on the apron, I my buddy that comes with me, Kevin, he's got a key. And he's a great guy. He never minds staying, which I'm very fortunate that he does that for me. But I look at him and I go, brother, I'm going. I don't do the Breakfast Club. I don't do that. And I leave. I leave,
Yeah.
and he's like, don't worry, bro, I'll lock up. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like it was serious business when you went to wrestling school. It was
Yeah.
serious business. I
Yeah.
mean, you mentally prepared yourself in your car on your way. You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
You knew it was going to be hard. You knew it was going to be a long class. You knew it was coming, and you prepared yourself for it. It was work. It was hard. It's just different now. It's just
Yeah.
different.
We would go there in the morning. We'd train, and then we'd go across the street, get a sandwich, eat, come back, and get back in the ring again and train some more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was just we wanted to learn, and
Yeah.
we wanted to learn as fast as we could.
Yeah.
Well,
Just how it
the
was.
problem, Amir, was across the street, along with that sandwich, was a place called Ralph Rotten's Nut Pound. And we go in there, and Roma would get a small bag of cashews and some almonds, and I'd get some stuff, and we go back, and we'd be eating it, and I'd look at Roma, he'd be eating his cashews and his almonds, and he'd look at it, and he'd go, "What are you eating?" I go, "What? I got some cashews and some almonds." He'd go, "Yeah, Mancini, mine aren't chocolate covered. Yours are." That was always a problem.
Yeah. 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 Well, speaking of that,
Oh, what a goof!
speaking of that, gentlemen, 2 weeks from now. I want to put everybody on notice. We're going to be doing that bodybuilding nutrition special. Jim Powers is going to be joining us on that. I'm also looking again a couple of other guests on that for us. Mario, I trust that you will be there. We've already
I
discussed.
will, Amir, and I will be here in this fashion. Watch very closely.
Uh,
No, no, of course, I want to learn. I want to learn. I want to learn.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I spoke with Jimmy a couple of nights ago. He's really excited about it. So fans have asked. Rico's going to be joining us as well. A couple of other guys I'm going to see have come on, and we should. That one's not going to be for the faint at heart either. Okay, just to let everybody know. But gentlemen, I think we've covered quite a few topics. It's been a great episode. Everybody, if you want to see our non-wrestling content, you can go over and see Hey Roma, which is also on the playlist on this channel. We just did a tremendous episode. I will toot our horns for the episode we did this week. It was fantastic. But any last comments, Paul, Mario?
No, I appreciate everybody, coming on, listening to our show. Don't forget, superplex that subscribe button.
Yep.
We want to see as many people as we can. And again, send in any questions that you have. We love to answer them.
Yep. Drop the comments. Send us your questions. If you've got anything you'd like for us to discuss, we'll certainly do that. Mario, any closing statements?
I do, Amir. I can't forget my brother Morris Shortall. And I need to talk to him. Haven't talked to him in a long time. I know he's busy. Another one of my brothers, the Professor Rick Del Santo. Both guys do similar to what we're doing here, but I have to say that you are one of the kindest, one of the best hosts that I've done a podcast with since the inception of me doing podcasts. I like to say that you're very good at it. Your other show was very entertaining, that I listened to. That's a character show. I rather enjoyed it. Um, you speak the truth. You're an honest and honorable man. With that being said, this podcast, along with Hey Rome, it will always be about the truth. And no response is the best response. And there's other pretenders, or desperate people out there in this kind of medium, that might have been doing this for a very, very, very long time, and it's like a treadmill.
Mhm.
They're just running like hell, but they're not going anywhere. And the desperation reaches the point where um it becomes false, lies, unprofessional, what have you. We have to we have to keep our level, which is a very professional level, a very entertaining level, a very truthful level. And I want to thank God that I'm on this podcast. I want to thank God that I have a reputation, and I was very careful with my reputation. I was very kind and courteous, even to the ones that now try to chastise me. I was even kind to them, and look where that got me. But you know what? I did put a Facebook post once about kindness and going through life being kind, even though possibly life has been harsh to you and unfair to you. It's up to you whether you're going to want to stop yourself by being thoughtful and kind to others in this world. And I think inherently your heart, if it's a good heart, will always stay a good heart, regardless of what kind of storm you've been through in your life. And I just thank God that I do have the credibility, of being in this business, regardless of anybody who wants to pass judgment on me, that was only there for 3 years at the time I was there. And then I was there from 87 on to 92, which, anybody who left the wrestling business in 87 would have no idea what I went through or what I seen or have been. So I just think that, and I believe that, Roma, with his absolute credentials. I mean, I tell Roma all the time, I go, how many people since WrestleMania 1, how many human beings have participated in WrestleMania, do you think? 500, 600, 700? I don't know. I've never counted. How many billions of people are there in the world? Billions of people. That's just a mind-blowing thing to think about.
Yeah.
That there are billions of people in the world, and you participated in a Survivor Series, a WrestleMania, or it's just like wrestling in the garden. The one time I did it, it's like I did it. And could anybody say that in their lifetime they can buy a ticket to go to the garden and see anything, but did they ever participate in anything in the garden? It's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate, and we're better people, and and no response is a response, and that's the way it's going to be, no matter what. Blah 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 blah
Mhm. Yes, indeed. And I think you
blah.
hit the nail on the head. I actually said that the other day. There are a lot of pretenders out there and in the wrestling business too, for that matter. And like you said, you're not going to find that here. This is where you discover the power of truth
Right.
in pro wrestling. I am very blessed, to be with these two gentlemen, Mr. Paul Roma, Mario Mancini. I have nothing but respect for these two gentlemen. They paved the path. They were the reason why things like this podcast has been created. All right. So, this is, and a couple of other things I was going to say as well. Remind our viewers, WrestleCon 2025, Las Vegas, Nevada. This entire team will be there, including Jim Powers. So make sure you stop by, get your tickets, get your travel accommodations. We will be right there. The Power and Glory booth will be there. Hey Roma, we'll be shooting live interviews with the fans, getting you on camera where you will be on the show with us. We're going to have exclusives. And also, what's also going to be exclusive, gentlemen, as we march closer to the release of that documentary, just so everybody knows, Paul and Mario won't be on any other podcast talking about it. They're going to be right here. So you've got to make sure that you hit that subscribe button because you're only going to hear about it here. So you can talk about it all you want, but it's only going to happen right here. Okay. Just so
Okay.
you know. Just so you know.
Amen.
All right. Amen to that. I want to say, God bless you both, gentlemen. God bless all of our viewers out there. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoy, get back to work safely as we move into the Christmas season. But we will be back next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.